What happens when a beloved actress sits down for what should be a simple chat about her charity work, only to be blindsided by a host who seems more interested in tearing her down than lifting her up? In just 39 seconds, one comment from Denise Welch would turn a friendly daytime talk show into an absolute war zone, leaving viewers at home watching in complete disbelief as the situation spiraled completely out of control. Rachel Shenton walked onto the Loose Women set that afternoon with a warm smile, ready to discuss her latest project supporting deaf children and their families. The actress, known for her genuine kindness and her Oscar-winning short film about deaf awareness, settled into her seat on the famous panel. Sitting across from her were Denise Welch, Ruth Langsford, Janet Street Porter, and Colleen Nolan. The studio audience clapped politely as Rachel waved, were completely unaware of what was about to unfold. Ruth Langsford started things off pleasantly enough, asking Rachel about her upcoming television projects. Rachel answered graciously, talking about how much she loved working with the deaf community and how it had changed her perspective on accessibility in entertainment. The audience seemed engaged, nodding along as Rachel spoke passionately about making sure everyone had a voice in media. Then, Denise Welch leaned forward, and something in her tone immediately shifted the energy in the room. "You know, Rachel, I have to say," Denise began, her voice carrying an edge that made Rachel's smile falter slightly. "There are some people who think you're just using the deaf community to make yourself look good. Like it's all a bit performative, isn't it?" The studio went quiet. Ruth's eyes widened. Janet shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Colleen looked down at her notes, clearly not expecting this turn. Rachel blinked, processing what had just been said. "I'm sorry, what?" "Well," Denise continued, seeming to gain confidence from the shock she'd created, "you win one Oscar for a short film, and suddenly you're the spokesperson for an entire community. Some might say you're exploiting vulnerable people for your career." Rachel's face changed. The warmth drained away, replaced by something harder, more defensive. "Denise, I don't think you understand what you're saying right now." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Denise shot back, waving her hand dismissively. "I'm just saying what people at home are probably thinking. You're an actress. This is great publicity for you." Ruth tried to intervene. "Denise, I think maybe we should—" "No, let her answer," Denise interrupted, staring directly at Rachel. "If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong." Rachel took a breath, clearly trying to maintain her composure. "I've worked with deaf children and their families for over 8 years. Long before any awards. Long before anyone knew my name. I learned British Sign Language because I wanted to communicate properly, respectfully. This isn't about publicity." "But it has helped your career, hasn't it?" Denise pressed, leaning back with her arms crossed. "You can't deny that." "Of course visibility comes with any kind of advocacy work," Rachel replied, her voice tight. "But that's not why I do it. These are real children with real struggles, and they deserve representation." Denise laughed, and it wasn't a kind sound. "Real struggles. Right. And you're the savior who's going to fix everything?" Janet Street Porter finally spoke up. "Denise, this is getting a bit harsh, don't you think?" "I'm just asking questions," Denise said innocently, though her expression said otherwise. "Questions I'm sure other people want answered." Rachel's hands gripped the edge of the table. "You're not asking questions. You're making accusations. There's a difference." "Sensitive, aren't we?" Denise retorted. "If you're so confident in your motives, why are you getting so defensive?" "Because you're sitting here on national television questioning my integrity," Rachel said, her voice rising slightly. "You're suggesting I'm using disabled children for personal gain. How am I supposed to respond to that?" Colleen tried to step in, her voice gentle. "Rachel, I think what we're all interested in is—" "No, Colleen," Rachel interrupted, still looking at Denise. "She knows exactly what she's doing. This isn't about interest or curiosity. This is an attack." Denise rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please, don't be so dramatic. This is a talk show. We talk. We ask difficult questions. Difficult questions? Rachel repeated, incredulous. You just called me exploitative. I said some people might think that, Denise corrected, though the distinction felt meaningless. That's a coward's way of making an accusation, Rachel fired back. Hiding behind some people say, while you sit there judging me. The audience had gone from uncomfortable silence to audible murmuring. Ruth looked at the producers off camera, clearly unsure how to regain control of the situation. Denise's expression hardened. I don't appreciate being called a coward. And I don't appreciate being called an opportunist who exploits children, Rachel snapped. But here we are. Maybe if you weren't so touchy about it, people wouldn't wonder, Denise said, her tone dripping with condescension. That was the moment Rachel's face changed completely. The defensiveness gave way to something colder, more final. You know what, Denise? I came here today excited to talk about a new program that's going to provide free sign language classes to families who can't afford them. I came here to talk about children who deserve better. But instead, I'm sitting here being interrogated by someone who clearly decided before I even walked in that I was guilty of something. That's not true, Denise protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Rachel challenged. From the moment you opened your mouth, you've been trying to tear me down. And for what? What did I do to you? Denise shifted in her seat. I'm doing my job. Your job is to attack guests? Rachel asked. Because if that's what you think this show is about, maybe you've been doing it wrong. Ruth jumped in quickly. Ladies, let's take a breath here. No, Ruth, Rachel said firmly, but not unkindly. I respect you, and I respect this show, but I don't respect what's happening right now. Denise leaned forward again. So what are you going to do? Storm off? Prove everyone right about celebrities who can't handle criticism? Criticism? Rachel laughed bitterly. You call that criticism? You haven't criticized anything I've actually done. You've just made vague insinuations about my character. I asked legitimate questions, Denise insisted. No, you didn't, Janet interjected, surprising everyone. Even I think you crossed a line, Denise. Well, and you know I'm not one to shy away from tough interviews? Denise looked betrayed. Janet, you're supposed to be on my side. There are no sides, Janet said sharply. Or there shouldn't be. This is supposed to be a conversation, not a prosecution. Colleen nodded in agreement. Rachel came here to do something nice, Denise. I don't understand why you're being so aggressive. I'm not being aggressive, Denise protested, though her rising voice suggested otherwise. I'm being honest. There's a difference between being honest and being cruel, Rachel said quietly. And what you've been doing is cruel. Denise scoffed. Oh, come on. If you can't handle a little heat. A little heat? Rachel interrupted, her voice sharp. You accused me of exploiting disabled children. That's not heat. That's character assassination. That's not what I said, Denise backtracked. That's exactly what you implied, Rachel countered. And you know it. The tension in the studio was suffocating. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment of the deteriorating situation. Ruth looked absolutely mortified, clearly aware this was going to be a massive story. Denise tried a different approach, softening her voice. Look, Rachel, I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot. There's no wrong foot to get off on, Rachel cut her off. You made your position clear. You think I'm a fraud. You think I'm using people. Fine. Nah, that's your opinion, but I don't have to sit here and listen to it. So you are leaving? Denise asked, and there was something almost triumphant in her voice, like she'd been waiting for this. Rachel paused, studying Denise's face. You wanted this, didn't you? You wanted me to walk out so you could say I couldn't handle it. That's ridiculous, Denise said, but she wouldn't meet Rachel's eyes. Is it? Rachel pressed. Because it seems to me like you've been pushing and pushing, or trying to get a reaction. Ruth tried again. Rachel, please, if you could just... Ruth, I'm sorry, Rachel said, turning to her with genuine regret. I know this puts you in an awful position, but I can't stay here and pretend this is okay. We can move on, Ruth suggested hopefully. Talk about something else. Can we? Rachel asked. Because I don't think Denise is finished. All eyes turned to Denise, who looked caught. I don't know what you mean. Sure you don't, Rachel said dryly. You've made your point, Denise. You don't like me. You don't believe me. You think I'm a fake. Message received. I never said I don't like you, Denise objected weakly. You didn't have to say it, Rachel replied. It's been clear in every word, every look, every snide comment. Colleen spoke up again. Denise, maybe you should apologize. For what? Denise asked defensively. No, for doing my job? For being unnecessarily harsh, Colleen said firmly. You went too far. I agree, Janet added, and I'm not easily shocked, but this was uncomfortable to watch. Denise looked around at her fellow panelists, seemingly surprised to find herself without support. Unbelievable. You're all turning on me? Nobody's turning on you, Ruth said carefully. But you have to admit, the tone of this conversation hasn't been fair to Rachel. Fair? Denise repeated. Since when is journalism about being fair? This isn't journalism, Rachel said quietly. This is a daytime talk show. People watch this to feel good, to have a chat, to learn something, not to watch someone get torn apart for trying to help people. So dramatic, Denise muttered. There it is again, Rachel said, standing up slowly. Dismissiveness, condescension. You can't help yourself, can you? Sit down, Denise said. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? Rachel asked incredulously. You've been attacking me for the last 10 minutes, and I'm making a scene? You're being oversensitive, Denise said. Rachel shook her head, reaching up to unclip her microphone. No, Denise, I'm being someone who knows when they're not welcome. Rachel, wait, Ruth pleaded, standing as well. Please don't leave like this. How else should I leave? Rachel asked, her voice softer now, tired. She's not going to apologize. She's not even going to acknowledge she did anything wrong. So what's the point in staying? The point is we can have a proper conversation, Ruth said desperately. With her? Rachel gestured to Denise. I don't think that's possible right now. Denise finally stood too, her face flushed. Fine. Leave. Prove my point. What point is that, Denise? Rachel asked, turning to face her fully. That I'm not willing to be disrespected, and that I value myself enough to walk away from toxicity. If that's your point, then yes, you're absolutely right. You're running away, Denise said. No, Rachel corrected. I'm choosing not to engage with someone who has no interest in a real conversation. There's a difference. Janet stood and walked over to Rachel. You don't have to leave. We can talk without Denise if necessary. That's not how this works, Rachel said with a sad smile. She's part of the panel. I can't just pretend she's not there. Why not? Janet asked. She's been pretending you're not a real person for the last 15 minutes. Denise gasped. Janet! It's true, Janet said, not backing down. You've been awful, Denise. Really awful. Colleen had tears in her eyes. This has gotten so out of hand. It didn't have to, Rachel said gently to Colleen. I came here with an open heart. I wanted to share something positive, but sometimes people don't want positive. They want drama. They want conflict, and I'm not going to be part of that. The studio audience had been silent throughout most of the exchange, but now someone started clapping. Then another person. Then another. Within seconds, a significant portion of the audience was applauding Rachel. Denise looked stunned. You're clapping for her? She's walking out. Because you gave her no choice, someone shouted from the audience. Another voice called out. You were horrible to her. Ruth tried to calm things down. Ladies and gentlemen, please. But the audience wasn't having it. More voices joined in, expressing their disapproval of how Rachel had been treated. Denise looked around wildly. "This is absurd. I was asking questions. That's what we do here." "Not like that," Colleen said firmly. "Never like that." Rachel had finished removing her microphone and was holding it in her hand. She looked at Ruth with genuine sympathy. "Isan, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted." "It's not your fault," Ruth said, and she sounded like she meant it. "Thank you for saying that," Rachel said. She turned to Janet and Colleen. "And thank you both for speaking up. It meant a lot." Then she looked at Denise one last time. The older woman was standing rigid, her face a mask of anger and embarrassment. "Denise," Rachel said calmly, "I hope someday you figure out why you felt the need to do this. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. Because whatever it is, it's not going to come from tearing other people down." "Save your therapy talk," Denise spat. "You're not better than me." "I never said I was," Rachel replied. "But I do know I deserve better than this. And so do the people watching at home." With that, Rachel handed her microphone to a nearby producer and walked toward the studio exit. The audience applauded again, louder this time. Some people were standing. Ruth called after her, "Rachel, please," but Rachel didn't turn around. She kept walking, her head held high, her steps steady. Denise shouted, "This is ridiculous! She's being ridiculous!" Nobody agreed with her. Even the crew members looked uncomfortable, avoiding her gaze. Janet sat back down heavily. "Well, that was a disaster." "You think?" Denise said sarcastically. "Thanks for the support, by the way." "What support did you expect?" Janet asked. "You ambushed that woman." "I did not," Denise protested. "Yes, you did," Colleen said quietly. "Right from the start, you went after her." "I asked her tough questions," Denise insisted. "No," Ruth said, and her voice carried an authority that silenced everyone. "You attacked her. There's a difference between tough questions and what you just did." Denise's eyes flashed. "I can't believe you're all ganging up on me." "We're not ganging up," Ruth said tiredly. "Ben, we're telling you the truth. And the truth is, you crossed a line today." "She couldn't handle it," Denise said, but she sounded less certain now. "She shouldn't have had to," Janet retorted. "She came here to talk about helping kids." "Helping kids, Denise. And you turned it into an interrogation about her motives." "Because people question her motives," Denise argued weakly. "What people?" Colleen demanded. "Where are these people? Or did you just decide on your own that she needed to be taken down a peg?" Denise had no answer for that. The producer was in Ruth's ear, probably telling her they needed to go to a commercial break. Ruth nodded and turned to the camera. "We're going to take a quick break," she said, her professional mask back in place despite the chaos. "When we come back, we'll continue our show." The cameras cut, and the red lights went off. Back in the studio during the commercial break, Denise was arguing with Ruth. "You made me look terrible," Denise accused. "You made yourself look terrible," Ruth shot back, and there was no warmth in her voice now. "What were you thinking?" "I was thinking I'd ask the questions nobody else was brave enough to ask," Denise said defensively. "Brave?" Janet scoffed. "There was nothing brave about what you did. It was cruel and unnecessary." "You're both overreacting," Denise said. "The audience didn't think so," Colleen pointed out. "Did you hear them? They were on her side, Denise, not yours." That seemed to hit home. Denise's face crumpled slightly before she composed herself again. "They don't understand," she muttered. "Or maybe they understand perfectly," Ruth said. "Maybe they saw exactly what was happening. A guest being bullied by a host who should have known better." "I wasn't bullying her," Denise protested. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. The producer came over, speaking in low, urgent tones to Ruth. From the look on Ruth's face, the conversation wasn't going well. When the show came back from commercial, Ruth addressed the camera alone. "Before we continue," she said carefully, "I want to address what just happened. Our guest, Rachel Shenton, felt uncomfortable with the direction of our conversation and chose to leave. That's her right, and we respect that decision. She paused, in clearly choosing her words carefully. Here at Loose Women, we pride ourselves on honest conversation, but honest doesn't mean harsh. It doesn't mean unkind. And if our guest felt we crossed that line today, then we need to listen and learn from that. Denise was noticeably quiet, staring at the desk in front of her. We wish Rachel all the best with her charity work, Ruth continued, and we hope she knows that many of us have the utmost respect for what she does. The show limped through the rest of the hour, but the energy was completely different. Denise barely spoke. When she did, Janet or Colleen would subtly redirect. The audience remained subdued, the earlier excitement and drama having drained everyone. In her dressing room later, Denise sat alone, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The confidence she'd felt during the interview, the certainty that she was doing the right thing by asking hard questions, had evaporated. Now, she just felt hollow. Her phone buzzed, then again, then continuously. She picked it up and immediately regretted it. Social media was exploding with reactions to the interview, and they were overwhelmingly negative toward her. Comment after comment called her a bully, said she'd been cruel, demanded she apologize. Some were calling for her to be removed from the show entirely. She put the phone down with shaking hands. A soft knock on the door made her jump. What? It was one of the producers. Denise, the executive producer, wants to see you. Of course they did. She'd known this was coming. With heavy steps, she followed the producer down the hallway. But as she walked, Denise couldn't shake Rachel's final words to her. That hope that she'd figure out why she'd done it. The truth was, Denise wasn't entirely sure herself. There was something about Rachel's earnestness, her genuine warmth, that had felt threatening somehow. Like it made Denise's own cynicism look small and mean by comparison. Maybe that was it. Maybe she'd lashed out because Rachel represented something Denise had lost somewhere along the way. Kindness without agenda. Purpose without ego. Generosity without expecting anything in return. And instead of being inspired by it, Denise had tried to destroy it. The realization made her stomach turn. But there was no taking it back now. The damage had been done, broadcast live for everyone to see. Rachel had walked out with her dignity intact, while Denise was left sitting in the wreckage of her own making,